I'm prepared for a pretty odd episode today, to be honest.
I think, listeners, Myke and I are quite a pair today, I think. There's a reason it's been 1,000 years between episode recordings. How you doing, buddy?
We'll talk about this in a little bit more detail later on, but I'm in a better place now than I've been so far. Upward trajectories and all that. How are you?
I'm not entirely sure where the stock market of me is right now.
Let's just say COVID has had a 100% success rate in the last 2 months in Cortex.
Right.
That's setting the stage. You know, the last time we spoke, it was me, just me, you know. Now, it's both of us.
Yeah, it's both of us. I messaged you and I was like, Myke, whatever is the furthest day from now that we can possibly record this show, that has to be the recording day.
Yep.
And today is that day.
My expectation is it really is the very, very last moment when this episode gets posted, in which we are contractually obligated to post said episode. But before we get to all of that, I wanted to let our Cortexans know about Mortex. You can go to getmortex.com and you will get yourself longer, ad-free episodes of not just this episode of Cortex. We're going all the way back multiple years for bonus content. So you get an extra segment at the end of every single episode if you're a Mortexan. And if you want to go right the way back to the very beginning of this show, every single episode of Cortex has no ads in it for Mortexans. And remastered in higher audio quality as well.
That's my favorite part. Remastered editions.
For your listening pleasure. And as I said before, in case you've forgotten over the last couple of years, you probably have, because who keeps track of this other than me? There are subtle tweaks to some of the episodes. Some of the timing has changed a little bit in some of the episodes. I've gone in there and give it the Myke of 2021's hands rather than, 2016. He didn't know what he was doing. So you can always go and get that at getmortex.com. But now, as an added bonus, our 2022 crossover special is now available. So over the last, I think, maybe 6 years, we've gotten together with Jason Snell, who I host the Upgrade podcast with, and we were doing a bunch of text adventures. And in the last 2 years, we've recruited our friend Tony Sindelar to be a game/dungeon master for us. So we've been going through an RPG, an epic RPG adventure story, which this time had us dealing with a supply chain crisis. It was a great time. We put it together. It came out a little bit late because I wanted to give it the editing touches that I always give it. So lots of sound effects and stuff like that. Because of COVID, it took longer than I wanted to, but it is available now. All Relay FM members get this in the crossover feed. But if you become a Mortexan, you also get that crossover feed, which has bonus specials from a bunch of Relay FM shows going all the way back to like 2015, 2016. So there's tons of fantastic content in there for you, along with the longer ad-free episodes of Mortex every month. So go to getmortex.com and you can sign up today.
I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but in this most recent members episode, you created what may be the best sound effect that has ever existed in a podcast. I really appreciated your editing work on this one. It really made me laugh.
I will say that particular thing, many people have contacted me to tell me how weird and or funny they found that, which is hilarious to me because when you mentioned it, I did not know what you were talking about. I had no memory of it. Because there's so many, I make so many peculiar choices. There's a ton of Easter eggs in the editing of this that really only I will ever get. So like, another little spoiler, there's a moment where two pieces of music are playing over each other. One of them, which you would not be able to tell because of the way I edited it, is the girl from Ipanema, which is a long-running Cortex joke at this point. So that's in there.
Yeah, I didn't even catch that one. I didn't catch that it was the girl from Ipanema.
No, because there's another piece of music laid over the top of it. It's inaudible. but it's in there, it's in there. So there's a ton of great stuff. You can go and check it out for yourself. Getmortex.com. Now, before we get into the meat of the episode today, I just wanted to put something on your radar. So I'm a big keyboard boy,
Yeah,
got
I know
my
you're a big
keyboards,
keyboard.
doing my Twitch streams, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There is a company that has a licensing deal with Wizards of the Coast. And they are producing Magic the Gathering keycaps, desk mats, and cables. And I just, one, wanted to let you know this is happening. And two, I just wanted to know, does this keycap set really say Magic the Gathering to you? Does it do the job?
Like, I don't understand what a magic cable would be.
It's just colors.
Oh,
See, it's hit something.
Okay. Okay. I was like, how much do I need to explain this? All right, this makes the moment I was like, what on earth could this possibly be? But as soon as I clicked it, it's like, oh, this makes a million times more sense. Okay, so for non-fans of magic,
Muggles. I think they're called Muggles.
no,
No, is that wrong?
It's creature type human is what they are.
See, that was a joke I don't get.
Don't worry about
I
it.
can imagine there are a bunch of people that are like, ha, 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 right? Like, I don't know. 95% of our audience is like just shrugs that one off.
Yeah. So roughly every season or so, they come out with a new collection of cards. The new cards always have a little theme that goes along with them. But this year, they kind of broke tradition a little bit. And they came out with a theme that instead of basically everything is like medieval magic land, like, very traditional fantasy kind of stuff with little spins on it. This time they had a set that came out and it was like, oh, it's the future and it's in our fantasy version of Japan and everything is neon. And I freaking loved it. Like, I think they did an amazing job and they made it seem like it really fit in with the game, even though it was really out there. But it also makes 1,000 times more sense. So like, oh, if you were going to try to license cool looking USB-C cables and keycaps, you would pick not Magic as a whole thing, but this particular set of cards and the aesthetic to be like, look, it's all neon and cool.
Like, I like the colors of this a lot.
Yeah.
I really don't like the legends is what they call, but like the characters, the letters and the keys. I can see where it's come from. This is the font of the game, which I get.
Oh, let me see.
It's like if you go to the keycaps, you scroll down the page, you see like an exploded view of all of the keys.
Oh, I see.
And it's got that like Magic the Gathering font to it. And
yes.
I really don't like that, but like I understand why they've gone that route. It fits, but this is one of those things where it's like now kind of to me, they've made this product just for Magic the Gathering fans, which I know that there are many, and I'm sure it will do very well. But
yeah, it's interesting. I can see what you mean. I feel like, yes, that font does not look great on keys. I do think it's cute. They have, I guess those are the escape alternates, are the 5 different mana symbols, the little sunshine, water drop, skull, fireball, and tree. So I guess those are alternates for escape.
Yeah, well, you could use them anywhere on the top row of the keyboard. There's like the same.
Okay, so there's like the function key stuff. Interesting.
It's a very complete set, I would say, for like fun stuff. And they've done a decent job, I think.
Yeah.
With the kit. And they've got a bunch of like the desk mats, like that you put down on the desk, put your keyboard on top of. They're like down the page too. And they've got like a bunch of amazing designs. Like, and I assume there's some kind of like big boss monsters from Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, we got Jin Kataxis there.
Oh no. And obviously beside you, who endures, everyone knows.
Yeah, that's a tree. That's not a boss. Beside you is the name of a tree, but nice try.
I mean, the tree could be a boss,
Myke, that's ridiculous.
Oh, yeah. Come on. Why would the tree be a boss when there are dragons?
Yeah. So I think the answer to you is that this doesn't scream Magic to me. It screams Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. But they did a great job. It's funny to see. And never in 1,000 years would I have imagined that you would have ever had any piece of Magic the Gathering related anything to pass on to me. So thanks for that. This is fun.
I don't think this will be the last one either. So like this company, Clack Keys, they've got the licensing partnership with Wizards of the Coast now. So if this one does well, I'm sure they'll do more. And I think you're right. Like they chose maybe the one that they could most easily translate visually to something that looks like really appealing to a wide amount of people.
Yeah. This would be the best one to start with for sure. Yeah. Interesting. I'll be curious to see if they do. New Capenna is the next set, which is like Art Deco stuff.
Oh,
which I'm a big fan of Art Deco, but I just, as much as Kamigawa was awesome and it totally worked, I'm not a big fan of the New Capenna Art Deco stuff. Like, I just think it sticks out in the game like a sore thumb. It is like, ooh, they had a real high and then what I think is like a real low.
Oh, okay. I'm looking at some of these cards. They look nice on their own, but maybe that's the problem.
Yeah, I do think you could make a pretty sweet looking keyboard with like Art Deco design. So New Capenna, not an amazing Magic set, but probably an amazing keyboard.
So today's episode, originally, I was considering that we would do a review of our yearly themes so far, because we haven't really spoken about them very much since, say, January, February time. Like, that was something that I was thinking we would do today.
Long ago, in January or something, we discussed, we should halfway through the year talk about our themes.
Yep.
And I put it on my little calendar as like, mid-year theme review. I've been looking at that coming up on the calendar with a lot of mixed feelings, as I imagine you might be feeling.
Well, basically, I think we're both going to talk now a little bit about our COVID experiences and how it's affected our work.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially, it has made a pretty big impact on my year theme. So I've kind of taken a look at my theme a little bit more, and I've actually been able to flesh it out a little bit more because of this.
Oh, okay.
And so I do want to talk a little bit about my theme today, but it's not at all what I was expecting. You know,
Right.
what I was originally planning to do today was to talk about how my year has changed so far with the year of structure and kind of how I'm doing. And I'm probably now just going to leave this until the end of the year and kind of talk about some more things that are being added in or changed to my year theme because of having COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So the year of structure, that was my whole idea. And really the idea of it was to put some immediate plans in place, but ultimately be thinking about what changes would I make for next year moving forward. So it was like a foundationary year, really. It's like setting the structure for the future. And this past 2 months has really kind of recommitted me to making some more immediate and short-term actions rather than just, I've done a few things and now I'm going to just keep this in mind for a while until I get ready to work out for 2023 what stays, what goes. So as a little bit more background, as a conclusion to my trip, right? So cast your mind back to the WWDC, me in San Jose with COVID.
The world's saddest boy.
World's saddest boy. The second half of the trip was way better. We were able to leave San Jose because we had to. We got kicked out of our hotel. I tried to extend it, but really I did want to go. So we were able to move to San Francisco. I started to feel better there, and I was able to there was just more to walk around and just be a little bit more active, and it felt a little bit more removed from the sadness, you know, because I wasn't in that same place anymore.
Yeah.
We did then get stuck in Dallas again for a day. We had another connecting flight issue. So back in Dallas, back in the same hotel, went back to the same place for lunch as we did in March, and then came home again. It was just, but this was different though. We knew before we got on the plane
Okay.
that it was going to happen. We actually, we could see that delays. So we ended up changing our trip and ended up taking a flight just to Dallas, and then the next day going home.
I feel like Dallas is just has a magnetic force pulling you towards it at this point. Like at some point you're going to be trying to fly to Paris and still end up stuck in Dallas for a day somehow. I'm just gonna wait for that to happen.
It's like the Bermuda Triangle for me, right? Now I am 8 or 9 weeks, I think, since catching COVID initially. I am a long COVID sufferer because I still do have symptoms. I am on an upward trajectory. Some of the symptoms took a couple of weeks to drop off, and so they're one by one, I'm losing them. Mostly now, I still get a little chest pain. I still get a bit out of breath. I've seen a doctor. Everything I've got is consistent with long COVID, and I've had a bunch of tests done to make sure there hasn't been any damage, and it doesn't seem like there's any damage. And now it's just the case of me waiting it out.
When you talk about damage, are you talking about lung capacity tests? Is that the kind of thing?
Yeah, lung damage, heart damage. We've looked for these things.
Oh, okay.
A lot of the symptoms that I have, it seems like it can be you've either got long COVID or you've actually had something go wrong because of having COVID. Nothing seems to have been an effect. I did this whole lung study thing where I had to do a bunch of breathing tests, and everything seems basically fine. So obviously we didn't do a test beforehand, so we don't have a baseline to compare it to, but I'm within regular range. So the doctor did tell me something really interesting, because one of my main symptoms right now is I get out of breath quite frequently and also sometimes quite randomly. And he was saying that one of the things that he has observed or has been observed is that what it seems like is there's nothing actually wrong with the lungs. It's that your brain and your lungs kind of get out of sync from each other. And you think you don't have enough breath, but you do. But you start to breathe differently. It's like there's something about COVID which like gets them out of sync. And he says in most people and in himself, just all of a sudden one day, it just goes away. So I'm just waiting for that day now for it to go away. So very strange.
That is very strange.
But all of this is to say, the effect that COVID has had on me has been playing on my mind.
Mm-hmm.
So over the last 2 months, it's been harder for me to produce shows. Like I've not had the same level of energy. For the first month, every show that I would do would completely wipe me out. I would be exhausted afterwards. I would have a burning sensation in my chest. It was rough. So this has kind of given me a bunch of things to start thinking about. I realize I'm bad at resting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is people were telling me from the beginning to rest. But I am very much, my mentality is, if work is to be done, I want to do it. I still have this, like, I have to work feeling, or that I need to be the one doing everything. Or like, if I want things to be done right, I need to be involved in them. And this is purely a me problem. It's not like I don't trust my colleagues, because I take vacations every year and I have no problem with that. And I'm fine with everyone looking after for me. But if I'm sick, I want to work. Because there is something in my brain, which is definitely wrong, which is saying, you can just do this. You'll be fine. You can just do it. And so now that I am doing a better job of realizing this, I've been taking a longer look at myself, thinking more about what I want to be doing with my life. And I definitely know, as I did at the start of the year, that I want to be able to reduce my working time to be able to spend more time not working, spending time with family, taking more time for me. And I have done some of that this year, but being sick like this has reminded me I need to do more so that when I get myself in a situation like this, the amount of work that I feel like I need to do is already smaller.
Like when you said before about making short-term changes, like what time scale is short-term? Because like I'm just thinking your podcasting schedule hasn't really changed since the start of the year until now.
No.
That workload is still the same.
So that was always the thing of like, I didn't want to cancel any shows this year.
Yeah.
For a bunch of logistical reasons, it's not great to just do it. It's just complicated. It gets complicated. And so the plan was that before we started with the 2023 planning, that I would have an idea as to which shows I would stop doing. So I'm still working on that because it's very complicated.
Yeah.
And it comes with a lot of emotion, and it comes with the impacting other people. So I'm still finding it very complicated, but I'm feeling better about it. I have made some shorter term changes now. Like I've done some stuff to try and help with the balance and with finding structure in different ways. And then I've also got some things that I'm going to be doing over the next couple of weeks. The biggest change that I've made is I have let go of the edit of Upgrade.
Oh, wow.
This is very difficult for me. I have edited this show every Monday, pretty much, for 7 years.
I can't believe you're letting go of the edit for Upgrade. Wow. How are you feeling about that?
Not good. I'm not good. Not good. So this is nothing on who we've got to do it. So I am using our friend Jim Metzendorf. He is an incredible audio editor. He's better at it than me, for sure. He edits a bunch of my shows and a ton of shows at Relay.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nothing about this. It is letting go of it. Like, I feel like I have been able to craft some of the show in the edit. If I'm editing, all I have to do is just have trust in me to get it right. I don't have to think about anything. I just do it. But now I'm letting that part go, and then Jason's going to be posting the episodes instead of me. And so it's like I'm letting go. I'm having to let go of the control of that part of the process. So like the show will probably be posted when I'm asleep now, which makes me feel very uncomfortable as well.
I don't blame you for feeling uncomfortable with that.
But it's time.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason that I chose to do this is it is between 1 to 2 hours of work every week. But it's not the amount of time, it's the time in which it happens. So the beginning of the edit of Upgrade begins at around 7 to 8 p.m. on a Monday. And I don't want to be working that late anymore. Like, I don't want to still be in the studio at 9, 10 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to do it. And so that's why this is one of the immediate things that I'm changing. It starts with the next episode, so the 1st of August. Jim helped out with some stuff that we did in a previous episode with some guest interviews, but the actual like letting go of the entire edit of the show starts in August. There is a bittersweet feeling to it for sure. Like, I will be happy for the time. I want the time. I want to have the freedom more of like, we finish and then I just leave.
Mm-hmm.
But it's something that I've taken great pride in too. So it's hard to let it go. But if I can't do this, I'm never going to be able to cut anything else.
Right.
This is one of the most simple things in theory for me to get rid of. There is no reason for me to still be the one doing this. I'm not bringing any particular skills to the edit of these episodes. I like tidy them up. I go through them, and then I add in the metadata that we need. You know, it takes time because I put time into it. But like, Jim will put more time into it. The show will come out better. Because the thing that I don't do for Upgrades and for Time to is listen back to large portions of the episodes, which he will be doing. So the edit will take longer, but it will still come out Monday. But it will come out later on Monday. But I can't spend that amount of time because then I'm working till past midnight.
Right,
you know?
right.
And so it's a no-brainer to do, especially because I've done it for so long too. But it's just really difficult to let go of this part of the process for me.
I think this also, I mean, obviously this is always the thing that I am sensitized to, but you're also getting rid of that pressure every Monday of this needs to go up today. This is the schedule. It needs to go up today. And you're also staying late at the office to get it done.
Yep.
Like removing that, I think that will have a bigger effect than you think. It's just like the relief of it's not even, oh, this is an hour. It's like, oh, it's an hour or two before I can go home late on a Monday because a thing has to happen.
Yeah, I've felt it before. Like, I used to edit Connected, and then when we had to change times and record later, and I said I couldn't do it anymore, and Stephen very thankfully took over the edit. And I remember what that was like. It actually became even easier for me to enjoy the recording of the show.
Right.
Because I was not thinking, oh, I still got to edit this.
Right.
Or like, you know, there's like a thing going on in the episode and I'm like, oh, this is going to be hard to edit.
Right. These two guys are clowning around, right?
Now, I'm sure Steven feels like that, but he's a trooper. But I mean, the thing is, like, it's the time.
Yeah.
Like, if me and Jason were able to record at 12 p.m. my time, it wouldn't be an issue for me to keep doing the edit. It's not the amount of time it's taking, it's the time in which it's occurring has become the problem for me. It is time for me to let go of this, but it's just a thing which is like, wow, I've always considered this as like part of the thing. Mm-hmm. Like, this is part of the show. It's like my edit is part of the show, but I've been able to give up a bunch of things. This was the last one, really. Technically, I still do the edit for the Pen Addict and for the Backmarkers, which is like my pen show and my F1 show. Mm-hmm. But the edit for those is take the files, match the audio, put them into Logic, match up the music, export them. Mm-hmm. There isn't editing going on in those. Like, I'm not going in and tightening stuff up and cutting things out. And then with the member shows, right, then there's 2 files. You have to then take the second file, remove all the ads, make sure the timing's all there, upload to, you know, it's long. It's a longer process. But with the other 2, it's like it's nothing. So all I will be actually editing is this show.
I think you should give up even the technical editing of those other 2 shows, though.
It takes 10 minutes.
I know. I like here. I hear you say that. I still feel like you should give that up, right? If it no. Don't you nab me on this.
No, there's no need, especially for the pen addict, because when I record it, all I'm doing is waiting to start connected, which happens like an hour later. So I can't really get involved in anything particular or any other big projects. It is nothing for me to take those files.
Like
I'm hearing
all these words.
I time track. It takes 15 minutes for me from when we record to when I publish. Look, hey, I've already done a big thing here.
Yeah.
Right? You gotta just leave me be for a little.
No. I believe you. I'm just let me just put this over here for you to think about. That part of trying to make your life easier is even like what you've done with Upgrade here. It's not the time, like it's not the amount of time, it's when it happens. And it's one less thing to worry about. In trying to make life simpler, a really key feature is the absolute number of things that you have to think about and reducing that number. And I feel like people really do get tripped up in having a very large number of teeny tiny things, each one of which is like, oh, this is nothing, but they do add up. And so that's why I feel like, oh, Myke, if this story that you're telling me is true, that it's no big deal to do this, then it really should be no big deal to pass it on and to just have something that you never have to think about again. But I'm like, look, I'm not going to push it. I'm just mentioning it here. You keep doing what you want, and we'll talk in December.
But I'm not going to give up the edit for this show. It's a whole different beast. Like, that's never going to happen. And I will say this now, it's never going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's too complicated. I'd be too particular. I wouldn't be able to leave it alone. So really, in my mind, the only show I'm actually editing is Cortex now.
Right.
The others, it's a different process. No matter what Gray says, it's just assembling. It takes 10 minutes.
Right.
And I'm totally fine with it.
Very easy to outsource. Yep.
Yeah, but then you add time and money. Anyway, the amount of work that they take, I just don't think is even worth somebody's time.
No, I'm not pushing you on that now.
Yeah.
No.
All right. So that is one thing that is the biggest short-term change, because it has long-term ramifications.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done a couple of things to try and detach more from work outside of work time. And I would like to reintroduce to the show my friend Focus Modes.
Oh, right. Okay.
So being on iOS 16, so much easier to set them up. I now have a weekend focus mode and a weekend home screen. And I'm using the sleep focus mode now too.
Oh, were you not using the sleep one before?
No, it didn't. I had no reason. I don't do sleep tracking, although I'm thinking about trying it out. I'll get to that in a bit. And I don't want Apple to be setting an alarm for me every day. I'll just set my own alarms.
Okay.
And so I never felt like I needed it, but now I've done it just so it does the screen dimming and all that kind of stuff. Because then it's forcing me to think about the fact that you're going to bed.
Yeah.
But the main reason I did it is I am now no longer looking at my phone in bed before sleep.
Okay.
So when I go to bed now, my iPhone's in the sleep mode, and it's got the sleep focus going on. And I have previous sponsor, not sponsor, Audible. I'm listening to audiobooks now. So I get into bed, get my AirPods, press play on an audiobook, put the sleep timer on, put my head down.
I have a really dumb question here. I don't know what the sleep timer does. I see that as a button, and I've always wondered, what does this do?
Oh, when it hits the time limit, the audio just stops.
Oh, okay.
So it's for me, right? I put on 30 minutes and then leave it, because if I didn't, it would play the whole book by the time I woke up in the morning.
Oh, okay.
Because it would just keep going, right?
Okay, that makes sense. So you're not listening to sleep stories like you're listening to an actual book.
Currently,
okay.
I'm listening to a book called After Steve, which is about Tim Cook and Johnny Ive.
Okay.
Which is very interesting, actually. I'm enjoying it so far. But what I'm having to do every morning is try and find the part where I fell asleep. Before.
I think that's what always hung me up on the sleep timer. It's what problem is this solving? I don't know if it is solving a problem.
It's making it so that the book hasn't... Because it's way easier to find where I was within a 10-minute window than it is within a 6-hour window.
Yeah, but I also imagine you must run into the problem where the book starts to drift into your dreams, right? Like I feel like there's got to be a fuzzy border for like what do you remember?
I don't remember my dreams anyway, so this isn't a problem for me.
Okay, you're one of those. All right.
When something is particularly vivid, but that's rare. Like if I wake up and you tell me what you're dreaming about, I wouldn't be able to tell you.
Right. Okay.
So like I've been doing this for a week, right? The audiobook thing, and I'm liking it. It's too soon to tell, but what I will say is I have noticed a difference in how I feel in the morning.
How so?
Well, one, I'm getting more sleep for sure. Between 30 minutes to an hour more sleep every night. Because I'm getting into bed and putting the AirPods in, and usually I'm asleep within 15 minutes. Where before, I would be on my phone for maybe half an hour to an hour before I would try to go to sleep. So the immediate part is more sleep. And the other is, I think potentially being sucked into all of the things that can exist on the internet maybe isn't a great way to like set yourself up for sleep.
Yeah.
I don't know this is true, but it's what I believe. And so I'm working on that assumption. And so I think that that's been pretty good for me. The weekend focus mode has less social stuff available like on my home screens, no work apps on my home screens, and I've automated them to turn on as well. So it's just trying to like remind me to look at things less. It's actually pretty similar to my travel home screen, which is also built as an idea of like deprioritizing anything work related. So I'm just trying to set up my phone to encourage me to be more present in other things than the things that my phone is usually used for when I'm working or in work time. So I think that's actually been pretty nice. I've been liking that.
How long have you been doing it for?
A week.
Okay.
I'm pretty happy with this setup, and I'm going to keep tweaking it. What I have done, I've done a little bit of the focus mode stuff where it limits notifications, and I'm tweaking that with the weekend one. So it just like it hides them. And I really like the way iOS 16 presents a lot of this stuff anyway. The notification stuff is grouped together really well. There's this new option, like a display option called Count. And so on my home screen right now, I have the name of my current focus mode, which says recording, and it just has the number 3 next to it. And that means that there are 3 notifications that I can scroll up to see if I want to, but they don't put them on the home screen. This is just like a general notifications feature that I really like in iOS 16. Like it's deprioritizing all of the notifications unless I go for them. And then if you use some of the tools in focus modes, it then puts them another level down.
What's the other level down?
So if I swiped up to see my notifications, there's then like a stack that says while in weekend focus, and I have to tap that to see those ones.
Okay.
So I don't even glimpse them if I'm looking for other stuff.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. That is an improvement.
Yeah.
That's always been my frustration with this is accidentally seeing stuff, even if it didn't notify me.
You get the names of the apps, but none of the content.
Okay. That's better.
Yeah, it's way better. So I've been leaning into some of that, and I'm really digging it. That's working really nicely for me. Then I have some other things that I am thinking about now as part of the year structure. One is, how do I spend more time at home? I love having my studio, and I love being here for work. So what this means is not working at home, right? It's not just being at home and sitting on my MacBook and doing whatever.
Right.
This is like doing things at home, spending time with family, spending time with friends. I want to do more like home projects. All of this kind of stuff is just like a thing that I feel more, I think in my advancing age, have more of a draw towards.
Do you want to become handy, Myke? Is that what
I think?
Like,
I think
do you want
Yeah.
those jeans where you can slide a hammer in the side of them? Is that what you're leaning towards?
Okay, people get a tool belt for that. They don't put the hammer in the jeans.
No, you have jeans where they've got the little loops so you can put the hammer in them.
All right, clearly you're more handy than me. I didn't know about hammer jeans. Yeah, I want some hammer jeans.
Oh, now I know what to get you for Christmas.
I cannot tell you where this feeling is coming from, but it's happening to me.
Do you want to wire some plugs? Is this
I
that
do.
kind of stuff?
Like, I want to hang some pictures on the wall.
Ooh.
I want to build some furniture. Like I want to do stuff. I've mentioned this to some other people, and they've said, haha, your biological clock is ticking. I'm like, great, thank you for letting me know. But like, I just, like, Gray, you're going to like this. I've found myself smiling at dogs.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I see dogs in the street, and I'm like, that's a cute dog. And then immediately think, why do I care about that? But like, there's this part of my brain that's like firing off for dogs now too. So something's going on with me. I don't think it was the COVID that did this, but it's just made me reevaluate some things differently. So what I've been wondering is like, if I want to spend time at home, I could do some work to like condense my schedule a bit. So for example, we'll go back to talking about Mondays, which is when I record Upgrade. So I try and get to the studio between 10 and 11 a.m. and I will do my morning work. I will do all my prep for the show, but we don't start recording until 5. So I always have a little bit of time in the day, maybe an hour or two, depending on what's going on, where I'm just like hanging out here, which is nice, but maybe it'd be nicer to do the hanging out at home and come to the studio at like 1 p.m.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Sure.
So I'm starting to think about what would that mean? What would that look like? And that's another thing that I'm considering of like rejiggering the way that some things are to further make like home and work defined. Because like I've been taking advantage while I'm here. Like if I have time, this is something I'm doing with the year structure. Like if I realize that I have free time to use that for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been playing video games. I've been doing a lot of that this year, loads of video games, because that's something I wanted to do. It's something I spoke about in the year theme itself of like creating a structure for me to be able to enjoy some stuff that I want to enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of those things, but should I be doing that at home and then coming here and just doing the work and then leaving?
Yeah.
Rather than there being this like 1 to 2 hours in the day where, right? So like this is the kind of stuff that I'm starting to think about a little bit more.
Oh yeah. No, like you totally want to compress. I'm just thinking of like, oh, you know, a morning here and an afternoon there. If you can compress those down, you can like get rid of a day at the office or like have a day where it's like almost entirely clear.
Yeah, I'm trying to do that too.
Yeah, like I'm having flashbacks to both when I was in college and just being really obsessive about that same kind of thing with the scheduling of like, man, the advantages for like compressing a bunch of things that you have to do all into one day and into one afternoon. It's like makes such a big difference. So yeah, like when you say you go to the office and you've got like this middle time where you can use as personal time, I feel like that's just, it's never as good. Like you should be at home if it's going to be personal time and totally rework the schedule. Like I'm really glad to hear that you're thinking about that. Yeah,
this one is nebulous, but I had like a flash idea the other day, right? I was like, oh man. The first place I went to is I got to write this down in my Cortex notes. Like this is something I want to talk about with Gray, but I'm pleased that you feel that way. Then I feel like I'm on the right track for that part. So I don't know what that means yet, but I'm thinking about how I can do it. And I do feel like it would help me achieve the handymanness that I'm aiming for in my life. The last thing, which is it just doubles down on a thing for the future of like the importance of Cortex brand and Cortex brand products to me, which is this idea of what I am calling mostly passive income. Now, the mostly part is because a ton of work goes into making these products. But once we have something available for sale, the amount of work that goes into that product almost disappears for long stretches of time. Because one of the things I noticed during my COVID recovery is the sense of understanding that my main work right now requires me participating actively in it for it to continue and for me to be able to pay my bills.
Right.
If I needed to take a break for some reason and the shows couldn't be produced, that's a problem. Now, the way we have things set up, again, if I had to take 2 weeks off, I would be covered. People would help. But that's kind of not the point. It is realizing a risk factor in my work.
Yeah. And there's a big difference between, like, as you can see, taking 2 weeks off, that's very doable. A situation where, like, you need to take 2 months off. Like, right now that's a real problem.
Yep. Because, again, like, just something to underscore, like, the difference between mine and your major income source. So, like, for me, it's the podcasts, and for you, it's YouTube. Now, once we record and publish our podcasts, all the money that episode's ever going to make has been made.
Yeah.
because of the way we choose to do our advertising, which I think is the best way to do advertising, which is we embed it all in the episodes. It's recorded by us. Nothing's being dynamically inserted and all that kind of nonsense. But with YouTube, if people continue to watch the videos, some amount of money continues to be made always, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, if I needed to take 2 months off, I don't know what would happen.
Right.
But
That's what I mean. It'd be a big problem in the current situation.
yeah. And so having a line of successful products, which is what we are trying to achieve, that are then actively sold constantly, does not require the amount of focused effort on a weekly basis that the podcasts do. And so if we can continue finding things that work for people like the journal has, that is a very smart thing for me and you, but in this sense, I feel like more for me because I don't have this kind of income source right now. It has already been a great help this year, and I think will continue to be as we have other stuff that we're working on, and that's the hope.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like it's reinforced to me something I felt was the case anyway, like I was thinking about this, but now I feel like I have brushed up against the risk.
Yeah.
Because one of the things me and you spoke about a lot during the lockdowns was our major worry for COVID, considering the type of work that we do, was the kind of brain fog, confusion stuff, which I had a lot of during COVID, but has gone away now, I think. Mostly, how would you know? But it's mostly gone away. Because considering the type of work that we do, which is talking for a living, thinking for a living, and like communicating for a living, if I can't do that effectively, that's a big problem.
Yeah. And like I saw some colleagues get really screwed by that. And it's like, holy moly, this can be very alarming.
Mm-hmm. And so like that was like my biggest worry. And so I've brushed up against that now, and it's put that fear back in me.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's made me kind of rethink again about this kind of work. So all of this is my kind of like half year refocus on the year of structure. I'm continuing to think about what 2023 is going to look like. It's also led me to think a bit more big picture for the next few years. All I have as an idea right now is like, what am I able to step away from? I don't know what this means, but it's a question I keep asking myself. This episode of Cortex is brought to you by our friends at Fitbod. Between balancing work, family, and everything else you've got going on in your life, it can be hard to make fitness a priority. What you need is a program that works with you, not against you, and that's why you need Fitbod. Fitbod has a really smart, really awesome algorithm in their app that learns about you and your goals and training ability. This will craft a personalized exercise plan that is unique to you. And their app makes it so easy to learn every exercise that they're going to suggest, so you're going to feel comfortable performing them all. Personal fitness shouldn't just be about competing. You don't want to have to look at others and try and do what they're doing. What you need is something that is for you, that is tailored for you, and it's going to work for you, because that is when it sticks and you're going to see the results that you're looking for. To do this, Fitbod uses data to create and adjust a dynamic fitness plan to fit you. You will also have instant access to your own personalized routine in their awesome app, which recently got redesigned with these brand new HD video tutorials that are shot from multiple angles to make it easy to learn every single exercise. So then you'll be able to make progress on your goals from anywhere that you want with an app that also integrates with your wearables, so Apple Watch and Wear OS smartwatch, and also apps like Strava, Fitbit, and Apple Health. Everybody's fitness path is different, and that's why Fitbod does all of this work to make sure that things are customized to fit you. They make sure to learn from your last workout so your next will be even better no matter how many times you're working out in a week. Fitbod will even track your muscle recovery to make sure that things are balanced, so you're not going to be overworking the same muscles over and over and over again. They balance it out. This also helps you stick with it because you're not going to find yourself in pain all the time because you continue to work on your biceps every single day for 4 days in a row. No, you want it balanced. Again, these are the things that make this stuff stick. Personalized training of this quality can be really expensive. Fitbod is just $12.99 a month or $79.99 a year, but you can get 25% off your membership if you sign up today at fitbod.me/Cortex. So go there right now and get your own customized fitness plan. That's fitbod.me/Cortex. You'll get 25% off your membership at fitbod.me/Cortex. Our thanks to Fitbod for their support of this show and Relay FM. So how's your COVID? Can we get a timeline?
Boy.
Can we get a timeline? Like, how long have you been dealing with this?
So, okay, let me set the stage here, which is I went traveling with my family. So earlier in the year, we saw my wife's side of the family, and now we saw my side of the family. And at the end of that trip, 100% of us got COVID.
Full success rate.
Yeah, a real COVID clean sweep. So yeah, I was traveling with my family for about 3 weeks. Very luckily, I got it just at the end of all of that. One by one, we started to fall, and I was unreasonably confident that, well, I haven't gotten sick yet, so there's not going to be any problem. And then just in the last couple of days, I was feeling a bit off, but I swear, just like with the first time, I have some kind of mental resistance to believing that I have COVID.
Everybody else is like, they turn their head in a certain way and like, oh God, do I have COVID? You know, you're just like, I have all these symptoms. I'm sure it's just a cold.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know what it is, but I clearly have some kind of mental block on this. And once again, like we got home and then my wife was like, hey, you really need to take a COVID test. And I was shocked, right? I took the test. It was positive. I was like, I can't believe this. But yeah, so I got COVID again. And boy, I feel like I set some kind of record because I ended up testing positive at my wife's repeated insistence of like, I still need to take COVID tests. We went through this little pattern where I was like, I think I'm over it though. So I think I'm fine. I don't need to take a test. And she would go, oh, why don't you take a test? You know, just to confirm it. And I tested positive for 2.5 weeks.
So I had some people write in to tell me about this when I had COVID initially, because obviously I was away, so people were concerned about me getting home. It is normal enough that on antigen tests, people can test positive for weeks.
Interesting.
And weeks,
Okay.
even if they are no longer contagious, and that maybe a PCR test would have reported slightly differently, maybe not, but some people will test positive for a really long time.
Okay, I'm kind of relieved to hear that because everyone I was talking to was like, "What the hell, man? Like, I've tested positive for a week."
It is weird. Like, it's weird. It's weird from my lived experience and from the people that I know that have had COVID. But I've heard from enough listeners during that time period that said that it is pretty frequent enough that people will test positive for a really long time. So.
Okay, all right. That does make me feel better.
Can we just take a quick pause? Because I know some keen-eared listeners will have heard my whole family had COVID.
We were very concerned about the Lady Grey, and she seems to be the one who's been mostly fine for all of this, and I have been the one that has gotten hit harder. So that is 100% the way that I prefer it to be. Yep. I'm pretending in my mind like, oh, I've blocked the COVID for her.
You took it all. You took a bullet.
Yeah, like I took it all, right? It's like it was a bear running at us, and I got in the way, and it hit me.
No!
Yes. And then I hit her, but that's obviously like less bad.
Yeah.
Even though she was the one who got it first. And then
we don't have to think about things like that.
Like,
you just had a delayed reaction. It was shock from the attack, you know?
Yeah. But yeah, so she's, she didn't have like a fun time, but it was definitely not remotely as bad as a bunch of the other cases I've seen. So
yeah, and she wasn't hit in the ways that were worrying, right, initially. Which is good.
Yeah, so it's we're very fortunate about that. Presumably it's the whatever we're up to now, like BA5 Omnicromicon.
By the time this episode comes out, I'm sure it will have been, if not by now.
Yeah, I got really annoyed because I was like, why are everyone calling these variants like BA whatever? And then I looked it up on Wikipedia and I said, oh, there's actually a sensible reason for this. I thought like, oh, we just stopped using Greek letters for unknown reasons, but it's like, oh, no, these are like the 0.1 updates on your software.
Yeah, bug fixes and performance improvements.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
That's the release notes on each one of these 0.5, 0.6 updates to COVID. It's bug fixes and performance updates.
It really is, though.
Yeah,
right?
that is functionally what it is. So yeah, like we've been talking about it for 2.5 years at this point. The plan was always, you're not going to avoid getting it, but we want to strategically get it at the best possible time. And it's like, okay, we've been through many variants. As these things do, they tend to get, more virulent, but less harmful over time. Like not always, but there are evolutionary pressures for why that's the case. And so it's like, okay, great. Like we put off her getting infected for a long time. Great. No problems. However, for me, it led to what I could only describe as one of the most frustrating months of my professional life.
I am so happy we're in the same space right now.
Yeah.
Because like maybe the thing that I left out is like I have also been very frustrated, which is what pushed me to think so heavily about a lot of this stuff that I've got going on in my life. I've been very annoyed, very angry, very upset about this and a bunch of other stuff going on, and it's just been this whole mess for me this last 6-7 weeks. Because like I think the thing about the COVID as it is right now, like I remember a few months ago I knew people that had it, they're like, oh, it's just like a bad cold. But I know for me and I know for you it's been much worse than that. And so like I don't know if maybe we just got hit harder, or if like this is more akin to what these newer variants are, where like they are maybe less deadly, but still can put you in a pretty bad way for a while.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So it's like, I had all the kind of classic symptoms for a while, but what has been the particularly frustrating point, which both you who have checked in on me, the people I work with, everyone in my life, I have constantly, I don't know, maybe every 3 days, given people an update of like, hey, everything's on the up and up. Like I am on the upswing. Everything's great. This is all over. Only to come crashing down the next day and like starting all over again. Like I've never had anything like this. It's just so frustrating because I kept trying to have like a mental trend line for this is getting better or this is getting worse or even this is just staying the same. But no, I'm just trying to think. It's like I don't know if you ever heard those audio illusions where it sounds like a tone is rising infinitely, but it actually isn't. I don't know if you've ever come across this. Does that sound familiar to you?
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so like you can have these sounds that sound like the notes are going up forever, but obviously that's not possible. It's the audio equivalent of an optical illusion. And I feel like I kind of had that experience a little bit of like, oh, I must be getting better. But it's like, but no, you're not. You're not getting better. You're staying the same. It was super duper frustrating, and the thing on top of it that just killed me is it has been just a perfect storm of delaying putting out a video, and I have been like working on this video, and it's like, okay, I wanted to try to get it done before traveling with my family, but that didn't quite work out, and so okay, I was like, well, when I come back, I'm gonna get this video done.
Full steam ahead.
Full steam ahead. And I've been working on this. The video is 90% done. I just need to get it over that finishing line. I was like, man, in the past 4 or 5 weeks, it's like, okay, I've moved this video from 90% to 91% to 92%. It's been so slow. And like every working day, okay, I'm really trying to work on this thing. I was just way less effective and then knocking myself out for a longer period of time. And I don't know, it is hard to express how awful it feels to not have uploaded something, to have something that feels so close to being finished and not be able to finish it in remotely the time that you want to, while constantly feeling like, oh, I'm getting better now. And so now I'll be able to wrap this up in a few days. But you can't. Like, it has just led to one of the most miserable months of my life professionally. Like, it's just been awful. And it's partly why I was like, oh, Myke, we got to move this podcast recording back in the month as long as we can. And at the time of recording, it's like, oh man, I'm giving myself like a 50-50 shot of actually having it up before this episode goes up.
Yeah, I've been waiting all day today for if you were going to send me a draft. Because when we record and you have a new video going up, usually, if they're close, we end up recording slightly before, and then we will hold the podcast and usually put it up after your video goes out. And I expected but from the conversations we've had over the last few weeks, is that was most likely going to be what happened, because I definitely got this vibe that you were like, come hell or high water, this video goes out. And so we decided we'd like delay, and I've been thinking today, I'm like, I wonder if he's going to send me a video cut. And the fact that you haven't has not made me feel great for you.
Yeah, I sent you a rough cut like, I don't know, a week ago.
Yeah, and you did something you don't usually do, which is don't listen to the audio. I was like, okay. I just put the audio down on my iPhone and just like skim through a little bit.
Yeah, so part of the process is, this is not how anyone should make animated videos, but this is the way I like to do it, is going back and forth between increasingly seeing what the animations are going to look like and then trying to tighten up the script to match the animations, and then tightening the animations to match the script, and like going back and forth a few times, which is not how anybody who does animation should ever do it, because it takes 1,000 times longer. The proper flow for almost every video you've ever seen on the internet or like movies you've seen is audio gets finalized and then video happens, because it's like changing the audio is such a pain in the butt. But I don't like to do it that way for a bunch of reasons. So I had recorded a really rough track of the audio where I just talk through the script. I don't really try to do it properly. It's just, I want to give something to the animator so we can make something to see roughly how does this look with the words that I'm saying. But it's terrible. Like, no one should watch it. So I had done this rough audio before I had left on the trip with my family. And that's partly why I was like, oh, I'm so confident about this, because, you know, while I'm traveling, the animator can work on this and that can get done. And then when I can come back, I can just do all I need to do, Myke, is make a couple of final tweaks to the script and then just record the final audio. And then it's all done. I mean, except for the 10,000 little picky changes I do after that. But like, really, it's basically done and there's no problem. But goddamn, like, the thing that has been killing me is for a long time, I completely lost my voice, and I've only really gotten it back in the last week. I went to record the audio and I just couldn't do it. Like, it was unbelievable. Because here's the thing, like, I feel like there's kind of 3 levels of talking. There's normal talking where I'm just at home and I say some things to my wife. There's a second level of talking, which is what we're doing right now on Cortex, which is there's a microphone in front of me. And so you talk more, you talk louder, right? Into the microphone.
And the issue that I had and continue to have is it's more sustained talking for a longer period of time than a typical conversation would be. It's like just an intense conversation that you don't have very often in your daily life.
Yeah, or I think it's more like phone calls as well. Like when you're doing, like there's a sustained thing there.
Yeah.
Which is why I always feel like conversations in real life, the key thing that's different about them is it's easier for both people to just not talk for a few moments and sit in silence with each other. And on phone calls and FaceTime, like, you can't do that. And on podcasts, that's the whole thing.
You really can't do that.
You know, you can't like, oh, we'll just sit here for a couple of minutes and drink our coffee and, you know, look off into space and then pick up the conversation. Like, you can't do that. So there's this level, which is like a notch up from regular conversation. But then the videos are one notch above that because it's like giving a presentation.
And I have a theory that you can maybe confirm for me about how you feel about this. The type of content that you make, you would prefer it not to be pinned in time forever. Like,
Yeah.
that was the video Gray made when he had COVID, and you can tell because you can hear it in his voice.
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine you would prefer the video not to sound like that.
Yeah, I mean, I would prefer the video not to sound like that, but the problem I ran into the first day I went to record the final audio is I physically couldn't do it.
Yep.
I was absolutely shocked, and this again is like, we just, here's the theme. Gray is constantly surprised by COVID. What do you mean I can't talk in this loud, sustained way into a microphone?
I do this all the time.
Yeah, I physically can't do it. So yeah, I also kept giving up. I'm like, oh, I'll have the audio any minute now. And it's like, no, I won't, because I talked like this for 10 minutes and ended up just like uncontrollably coughing. And like, okay, well, this is just not going to work. It's like, yeah, I don't want a video to have my voice sound like I am sick, but I couldn't even get to that stage. And so what I've ended up having to do, which I loathe so much, is I had to break up recording the final audio into multiple sessions. Where I was like, okay, I'm going to just record as much as I can, and then I'm going to have to stop for today, and then that's it, and then pick this up tomorrow.
That's less than ideal.
Do you know what I did? Like, I put a little marker on the floor for exactly where I was standing in front of the microphone. Because it's like to help minimize the different sound from the different days.
But that's just one of the variables.
There's a million variables. Distance from the microphone, though, is surprisingly important. And I think it is one of the things that is actually quite hard to fix in posts.
Oh, yeah.
This is one of the things of like long-term projects, and one of the reasons why I would like an office is I would love to have a dedicated recording station just for the videos where nothing ever changes. Where it's like, I can stand in this exact spot. I never touch the microphone, never do anything to help minimize when this needs to happen.
Yeah, but what you've eaten and had to drink that day, what time of the day it is.
Oh yeah, no,
you got sinuses going wild. Like, I know you know, but I just wanted to put it out there that this is about being able to control the things you can control.
Yes. Control the things you can control. You can also minimize a bunch of those variables by simply recording in the morning before you've eaten any. Like, there's a lot that you can do if you have to do this. But yeah, so the current state of my final audio is this horrific Frankenstein monster over many sessions where I put many takes together to try to get something that's a final audio. And I think you can hear in my voice that I'm sick. Like, it's not terrible. I think a lot of people won't notice, but I can definitely hear it.
Most people aren't going to be able to tell about the variance of time.
Yeah.
Like this, I know we've mentioned this on the show before, but I know it's something that we can both notice. Maybe it's part of our jobs, or maybe there's just some people who are more attuned to it than others. When you can hear like what's called ADR on a TV show or movie.
Oh, I know.
Where like somebody's added a line in that wasn't actually said at the time.
Yeah.
And it astounds me. Like, I can spot it and I'll turn to a dean and be like, did you hear that? I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know what it is. I think that maybe it's just something like, if you're used to dealing with audio and like piecing together the way people speak, it truly is incredible how hard it is to try and make something match. It takes a lot of work to try and get that right, and a lot of skill in controlling your own voice. It's really hard.
Yeah, it's absolutely shocking. That is, again, there are 1,000 things where if you work in the world of entertainment or in the world of media, entertainment and media is completely ruined for you in 1,000 tiny ways. And this is one of those ways of like, boy, you just always tune into it. Like, they added that line of exposition later because they were afraid that people wouldn't understand what was going on. Like, there we go. Hello, ADR. But yeah, so it was brutal. And that's how I've spent the last week. Is I was like really just trying to kill myself to get this thing done. But I do these little recording sessions, strip my voice, and then spend the rest of the day just like really exhausted and not being able to do very much.
When you were saying earlier about the up and down you've had in symptoms, this is a part of that. And I'm not going to tell you that you should be resting because I didn't do it either.
Uh-huh.
But like that was the thing that I noticed. Like the harder I worked, the worse I felt the next day. Like I would start to feel better, and then I would do something, and it would pull me right back down again. Like this weekend, like Friday, I went to the gym for the first time, and I also saw some family over the weekend. And I've been struggling more the last 2 days than I was, say, Wednesday, Thursday of last week, because I've exerted myself more. But the way that, like, I don't know how you describe this kind of graph where, like, but it's like a trend line. So, like, it goes up and down and up and down, but the valleys are always higher than before and the peaks are higher than before.
Mm-hmm.
You know, am I explaining that right?
Yeah,
Like paint a picture in your mind. But so, like, I still have times where I feel worse than the day before, but even that worse is better than the worst of the previous week. Like, that's kind of where I am, and I think you'll get there, but you've been putting yourself through one of the worst things you can do.
Here's the thing, Myke. I'm going to say words, but I also know that I can't trust me saying these words of, oh, I think it's finally getting better, right? But I've been saying that for weeks.
Yeah. No, I understand.
I really do. I can tell you, I really do think it's fine. But like, I don't actually know if that's true, and I just won't trust that that's true probably until I actually do the next recording and can be like, okay, it's fine.
But we couldn't have done this 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that is true. I would like not have been able to physically record this podcast.
Yep.
So yeah, that definitely is better. But this is why I say, like, yeah, in an ideal world, I would not try to push so hard to get the final audio done. But it is just that, like, that unbelievable pressure of it's been forever since I've uploaded a video. Like, this has been, I think, now the longest break ever on the channel since an upload. It has to be the case. And you know, it's sort of like, you know, you were talking about the theme stuff as well and thinking about that. And so that's also partly why I was like, oh my God, I've had such a strange year kind of thinking about all of these things and related to the theme as well. But something I did maybe 2 weeks ago to kind of like, okay, I feel awful about this, but I can also rationally understand that it couldn't have been different. And the way I worked this out is like, okay, I went back and I counted from January what was going on in every week of my life since January 1st until now. So I just updated the numbers until now. And it's like, okay, between traveling for my wife's family, for my family, for Hawaii jet lag, for also having COVID or being like now functionally in like still a bad recovery from COVID, I actually have only had 10 clear weeks this whole year. And we're halfway through the year. And 6 of those weeks were the first 6 weeks of the year making the highway video. And so it's like, okay, I can feel less bad about the situation when I look at it through that lens. I'm like, all right, you know, sort of related to what you were talking about. One of these fundamental ideas in life is that there's only 4 areas that you can spend your energy on. It's work, it's health, it's family, it's friends. And this has been one of those years where the intention was to spend a bunch of time with family, which was very important, and I was glad to do this. But what I was not expecting, and I feel like I've never really, in this category thing, I've never really thought about the inverse of this. I've always thought of health in a positive way of how much time do you want to spend being healthy? But there's also just the reverse. When your health is bad, that just takes away one, like that just uses up one of the categories. And you can't do anything about that. Like, you don't get to choose, as I did at the start of my career, like, oh, I'm just going to intentionally ignore my health. It's like, oh, if you're sick and not able to work, or you're just really slowed down, you don't get to make a choice about pushing through that. It's like, oh, okay, I just physically can't. So yeah, I've had 6 months where there's just 2 categories. It's been family and it's been health. And I've had 10 weeks where I was able to do work. And considering that, it's like, okay, I'm actually not that far behind in terms of video production. It's just I have to mentally calibrate for how much of the year was completely knocked out. So yeah, that's been my situation. It's been so frustrating. Like I feel like I can't even put it into words articulately. But yeah, I don't know if the video is going to be out before the podcast goes out. I really hope so.
But we know it's close though. Like,
yeah, so
you know it's close now.
It is close. There's when you were asking about, is Myke going to get a preview before the show? I also wasn't sure because it was just the day before yesterday that I put all the edits together and got it done. And so it is off with the animator and it is off with the composer and it is off with sound effects. Like all of that stuff is being worked on. And I just look now in my own company Slack of like, did everything come through yet? And the answer is no, it hasn't come through yet. So,
but the thing is, even if you had a rough cut for me, there's no point in me watching it if we can't talk about it because we won't talk about it until we know it's going to be up, right?
Yeah,
so there's
I guess
no point
that
in
makes
me
sense.
seeing it.
Yeah,
because I could just be like, oh, it's really good, you should go watch it. But like, I could just say that anyway. Oh, the video's real good, everyone, you should go watch it. You know what I mean? Like, we can't talk about it because it might not be out by now, and you don't want to do that because it's bad enough that we're already saying there is one after 6 months of a gap. You know what I mean? Because now it's like Grey fans out there, they're like, oh, all right, here we go, it's video time. Well, soon, but not yet.
Maybe. I don't know. I hope so.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the problem is I haven't made a decision yet, but it's like I might end up I don't know if I'm going to re-record the final audio. Like I haven't really listened to it since I put it all together, and that was also a work day that almost killed me. Like I couldn't believe how tiring it was.
You should. If you have gotten it to a point where you're 70% happy, I would just say go for it, because if you do it again, you do the audio again, and it knocks you out for another 2 days, like, yeah, I don't know. You'll just be doing this forever.
Yeah, I don't know. The reason I'm just saying it's like up in the air at this moment is I haven't, with a clean slate in my mind, listened to what I actually put together. So I feel like I actually don't have a good sense of what does the final audio sound like, because putting it together was such an exhausting day that it's like I didn't really have the ability to like evaluate it at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm like, I'll find out tomorrow, because when we're done recording, I'm just going to collapse. And so hopefully tomorrow I have the first work in progress of a potentially releasable version of the video with the final audio and music and animations. And then I can try to make a judgment call about, okay, is this fine to go up or not? I really hope the answer is yes, because redoing the audio is just the absolute worst part of it. And I'm also not confident like I'm physically up for it again, but we'll see. So yeah, this has been an absolute month of misery. That's what I've been up to, Myke.
This is such an interesting point for us both to be in, I feel like, at this time of the year.
Yeah.
For what was expected to be our half year, let's talk about how our themes have gone so far.
Yeah.
And the answer for both of us is kind of like, not how we expected.
Yeah, not how we expected. And also, I mean, for me, this is much more minor than it was for you. But I have found myself thinking like, okay, so COVID isn't going anywhere. Like, it's just going to be in the world. Mm-hmm. We're going to keep getting these different variants. And part of what I talked about at the start of the year was like, I'm going to do all of this travel. And like, I want to try to do more Grey Goes Outside stuff. And like, I have all of these ideas, all of which are involved in being outside of the house. But I do have to say, it has been on the back of my mind this month of like, I know people who have gotten COVID many, many times now. And if this happens, like every time I catch it, I need to reevaluate some of my thoughts about travel.
But that's the thing, you just can't know.
Yeah, like I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to this. I have already kind of cut down some of my travel plans for the rest of the year because I just need to reverse this and focus on work more for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
But I do have 2 conferences that I've been invited to that I will not miss for anything, and I'm going to go to them. But they're going to be like a very interesting test case in if I go to conferences and because of travel and because of being in a room with a bunch of people who are talking about stuff, like if I pick up COVID again from another one of those and it's like this, I don't know. Like, I think I'm going to need to reevaluate some of my thoughts about, how are the next many years going to go? Right now, we'll see, but it has been just niggling at the back of my mind. You can't lose a couple of weeks frequently from getting sick from this. So, I don't know.
As we mentioned at the start, you're able to get longer episodes of this show, bonus content, no ads, and our 2022 RPG adventure, which is now available to Relay FM members. So you can get all of this and Mortex at getmortex.com.